Hi there, I'm Jed.
I'm Shauna.
Welcome to Clearwater North. And today we want to walk along and invite you to journey with us as we prepare our homemade salsa. Now, salsa is one that we've been doing for a long time, isn't it?
21 years. Yep, we started doing salsa the first year that we were married, and we would drive around where we lived. And there was lots of produce available, so we got, I think, a half bushel or bushel of seconds of tomatoes and looked up recipes of what we could do, and we decided that we would make salsa, and we've made it every year since then.
Sometimes at the beginning, we would give away some of the salsa, but we have kids and we like to have a lot of company over, which is part of why we're inviting you on this journey. As we get into the winter months, we're going to be covering more of the hospitality aspect. But salsa is one, it's just great to have as a pantry staple. It has more uses than just having with chips. And so we're hopeful to encourage you with that. So we're going to take a look. Now this year, most of the tomatoes, I'd say what, 2/3 came from our garden this year?
I think so, quite a few. We've had the best year we've ever had for tomatoes so far. So that's exciting that we can produce a lot of it ourselves. Peppers, not so much. We've grown a few, but we don't have a really great season for that here. So we usually always supplement with sweet and hot peppers.
And the other thing that we have from this, today's recipe, I can see we're going to be there shortly, and that is we have onions, our own homegrown onions that we can put into the recipe. And so that's exciting. Would it be cheaper or easier to just buy salsa? Maybe not cheaper, but it would certainly be easier, but it's not the same. It's not worth it. You don't know how much is going into the food, and there's just something special about sharing with something you've made, isn't there? And something you've grown.
And it's nice to have it on the shelf that we know we're not out of it. We can just go down and bring up another jar until you realize that you're on your last jar and it's still only February or March. So
We've had that in some of the leaner years. So come along and join us when we're gonna. This is also one that it takes a lot of teamwork. We've always done this as a teamwork process. So come join us as we prepare our salsa.
here we have our ingredients. We have our tomatoes, and we also use the cherry tomatoes. We'll just throw them right in. We don't bother to skin them. Garlic that we grew and harvested and dried in an earlier video, and onions. We just harvested those today. Peppers, sweet, and the jalapeno we have purchased. And then we also have paprika, brown sugar, pickling salt or large salt, and vinegar. You can also use tomato paste if you want it to thicken quicker. We're not going to use any today. I don't know that we have any. You could put in lime juice, which we might do. You could put in cilantro. We don't have a whole lot of fans of cilantro in our house, so it's not something that we add, but absolutely you can do that. So we're just going to go ahead and get started. We're going to peel some tomatoes, chop some veggies, throw them all together, and we're going to have a lovely salsa. And we've got some beautiful flowers from our garden because it's just nice to bring the happy flowers from outside in.
So my job is to help prepare the tomatoes. And how I'm going to do that, I've rinsed all these tomatoes off, and I'm going to score a little X at the top of each tomato and put them into this boiling water for about a minute. And that's all it will take. What I'm doing here is I'm trying to take the skin easily off the tomato before I get into chopping them. So I normally do 7 or 8 tomatoes in the boiling water. Can't do many more than that because otherwise the skins really peel off. So one more. And you really just got to keep an eye on it. I'm going to turn on my light. And then I'm going to put them immediately into a cold water. I don't want the tomatoes cooking at this point. I just want to heat them up enough to get the skins off. Then we're going to peel the skins and chop the tomatoes.
So we're finishing up with our sweet peppers. And I'm going to do my jalapenos next. and I like to wear a glove with those. One glove, I just won't touch them with my right hand. But I had an incident one year where I got some juice on my hand, I guess, and I touched my lip and it burned for hours. So I'd rather avoid that. And we save our scraps from the sweet peppers and from the jalapenos, the seeds and the membrane inside, and we give those to our chickens. And the spice doesn't bother them at all. And it's actually something that's good for them with, I've heard internal parasites or something, but I have to look that up for sure. Anyway, but it's a good way to use up your scraps is to feed them to your animals, if it's an animal that can eat them. It's actually the membrane that's inside that is the spiciest part of the pepper. That's what we've been told anyway. So if you want it spicier, you can just leave those parts in, the seeds and the membrane. But we usually cut them out. We don't like a whole lot of seeds in our salsa anyway. I'm no expert.
Okay, as you can see, Shauna has a different pot that she's using. That's because we've separated this into 2 batches because it's going to take 2 of our pots to hold all the salsa that we have. Hopefully, if not, well, we'll have to get a 3rd on the go. So what are we doing with the tomatoes? Well, as you can see here, I haven't been doing all of it. One of our daughters, Winter, has been doing that. And all we're doing is a rough chop. So I'm going to take this 1 tomato and just literally just cut it up. It's going to simmer down anyways. We're just going to add that in there. I am going to take off the little bits. I've been saving the skins and I've been saving some of these bits. We're going to try and make tomato powder using our dehydrator. Hey, if I can make greens powder, which is a different video altogether, why can't we make tomato powder? So we'll see how that goes. Anyways, with tomatoes, it's just a really rough cut. In French classical cuisine, we would call this tomato concassé, which really just means, it sounds fancy, but it means you're just chopping it. No real order to this, because as it boils down, there's going to be some chunks of tomato left in your salsa. But again, it's to your preference anyways.
We have all our veggies in our pots right now, and they're really full, so we're hoping that everything will not just boil over. It should be fine because it does boil down. So I'm just putting in some salt into each one. I just kind of do the same thing for both. And we'll just leave this part to the end. Paprika. We will mix all this in. Okay, salt, paprika, brown sugar, and white vinegar. So we have the same, roughly the same amount of ingredients in each pot. Tomatoes, sweet peppers, jalapeno peppers, a whole bulb of garlic, and 4 onions, I think, in each one. Now these are just ready to be moved over to the stove, and we bring them to the boil, and then we turn them down and they boil for about an hour. You just kind of go with the thickness that you are looking to get. You give it a test, and then you put it in your jars and can it, and then put it on the shelf and enjoy. Whatever doesn't make it into the jars is the exciting bit. We get to have it right away.
Okay, so you can see here our salsa is simmering. We just are turning it down from boiling now, You don't want it to actually boil for too long, because if it's on too much of a rolling boil, tomatoes have a tendency of sticking to the bottom of the pot. So I'm just going to turn that down a little bit. There's the one pot. We want to make sure they're going fairly evenly, and you can see the other pot has the same movement. And when you see those bubbles bursting on the surface, you're a little bit on the hot side. You want to just turn it down a little bit to simmer. So I'm just going to reduce the heat, and now we're just waiting for the consistency we're looking for of how we like our salsa. Okay, so we finished our hot water bath. I did it for about 20 minutes. It is a tomato product. I don't mind giving it a little extra time. And we got a good seal on all 10 jars. And we will have one, we'll say 2/3 of a pint that we have in the fridge, cooling off, that we can have anytime we feel like it. Might even go with tomorrow's eggs. Thanks for joining us as we have done our homemade salsa, and hope that you want to try something like this out too. I hope the recipe should be in the link for you there. And remember, you guys can do this too. And reach out, try growing some of your own food, try preserving some of your own stuff, and have fun as you share it together.